I'm making my guest's favorite drink.
You picked a mojito, Vesper Martini.
The House of Balloons cocktail.
Nice and crisp.
Join me and some of the world's greatest writers.
Multi-award-winning author of 5 novels.
Best-selling author of more than 20 books.
The Pulitzer Prize, among many other awards.
Welcome to Dedicated. I'm your host, Doug Brunt. Today we're with Brad Meltzer. He is the #1 New York Times bestselling author of fiction, nonfiction, children's books. He's hosted shows for the History Channel. And on top of all that, he is the first ever 2-time guest of Dedicated. We are thrilled to have Brad back with us. Welcome.
I actually think, because they told me I was the first 2-time guest, that everyone else you have drunk under the table and those cowards would not return, but I returned to conquer.
You know who was the most fearless drinker on was Patricia Cornwell.
You told me that the first time.
That's
you
right.
said she was, and I fully respect that because I feel like I do think that as you get older, you're just like, I just want to have fun on my book tour now, so just give me another drink.
That's right. Yeah, she was great, and in fact, she was like off to News Nation for a hit after that, and so she was, that's why I say fearless. Eric Larson and I were here, and we had to make a break for the bathroom. It sort of did a little show interruption. But as we did last time, we're going to sip some Añejo tequila. I've actually upped the quality of the tequila since you were last here. This is
last time it was the foul. No, I'm sure it was good. But this is fancy. Look at it. Look at the bottle.
We were just discussing this little family trick of yours. You can have the bottle afterward, actually, and you can just refill this.
Yeah, so I will explain to everyone listening that in my family, my grandfather apparently used to, according to my dad, used to take fine bottles of alcohol when they were done, which he would never buy or maybe bought once, and then fill them with cheap alcohol. And you can see one of the characters in The Viper does the same. It is not research. It is just my family's cheapness.
It is just Meltzer history.
That's Meltzer lore.
At least he wasn't, giving them away as gifts.
Well, we don't give anything away. Nothing. Cheers,
Pal. Great to see you again. Congrats on the book, which is awesome. The Viper.
Yeah, that's nice.
Pretty smooth.
Yeah, that is really smooth.
All right.
Tell me the name again.
Asombroso.
Asombroso, the Viper Tour, brought to you by the Asombroso Tequila Company.
Right, this show needs a sponsor.
How do you not have an alcohol sponsor?
I keep thinking like the Luxardo Cherry Company. I mean, I put
whatever.
Luxardo cherries
Who
almost
cares?
everything.
Pick whatever you like and just talk about it, and you'll have a sponsor.
All right. I mean, except I can't talk smack about Casamigos, which I just was. I heard, reportedly, that they put stevia or some sort of artificial sweetener in their tequila, which is like, this has been a tequila scandal.
Oh, my gosh. The rock in the tequila world. Well, on to our new sponsor then.
Asombroso.
Asombroso.
Now, so for the audience who is interested in Brad's background, how he went to law school, nearly became a lawyer, then became a writer, endured multiple rejections until his big breakout success, you can go to our prior episode of January 16, 2024 for all that, which, by the way, I did look this up. We recorded on January 8 of 2024, which was hours before you enjoyed Michigan football winning the national championship.
I know what book I was actually here for. That happened during book tour, and I had to miss the game because I was at a book event signing books, and everyone in the audience knew that I was a Michigan fan. And so I said, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the fastest signing ever. I literally was like, Brad Meltzer, Brad Meltzer, Brad Meltzer. And everyone was so nice because they were like, go blue, go blue, go blue. And they all wanted to get home to watch the game.
Yeah.
So it was the fastest event I've ever done. I was out before the kickoff. And then we won the national championship.
And you won.
And that was
so it was all worth it.
Fantastic.
Well, so because we've sort of been through the background, you and I, we could just drink and kind of let it rip here. And I wanted to talk about some things that are new since you were last year. Of course, the Viper is one thing that is new that we'll get to. But I first wanted to talk about this amazing commencement speech you gave at Michigan.
At Michigan.
Which went totally viral. Like hundreds of thousands of people have watched the speech that you gave.
Yeah, so it was crazy because the commencement address at Michigan is in Michigan Stadium. It's in the big house. It's 70,000 people. It is not a book signing at the Barnes & Noble, right? And there are 70,000 people watching, and I'm focused on one, which is my son was graduating that day. Mm-hmm. And they said to me, tell us where he is. We'll put a camera on him. I'm like, I don't know. He's the white kid out in there. I mean, there's no way you're going to find him.
How many in class?
I think it's like
20,000
I was going to say like 25,000, some 20,000, something like that. I mean, it's a crazy number of who's at that school. But my son and his friends woke up early and texted me and said, Dad, we were in the first 100 people here. We got here at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're in the 14th row, and I look down, I count the rows, and I see my son.
From stage, you had the composure to do that? I think I'd have been seeing only white.
And I would have never found him, but I just counted the rows. They put him on the end, and I could see my son. So I'm talking to 70,000, but I'm really talking to one.
That's amazing.
And the speech was all about how do you make magic, and which is absurd because magic doesn't exist. But if you talk to magicians, there are actually 4 types of magic tricks. Put aside illusions and escapes, and there's 4 types of tricks. 1, you make something appear. 2, you make something disappear. 3, you take 2 things, you make them switch places. And the 4th magic trick, you take 1 thing and you turn it into something else, which is the hardest trick of all, transformation. And I then go through and talk about what you need to make appear, what you need to make disappear. But the crazy part, Doug, was when I got to the 3rd magic trick. And I said here, and when we talk about taking 2 things and making them switch places, I said, let's talk about empathy. Because that's what empathy is, right? It's switching places with someone else and putting yourself in their shoes. And I told this story, and I'm going to just tell it because this is the perfect spot to say it is. When we first moved to Florida from New York, my family ran out of money. It was just a devastating time.
How old were you then?
I was 13 years old, and my dad had lost everything. And we had so little that we had to move in, my family of 4, in with my 2 grandparents in a 1-bedroom apartment. So it's 6 of us, my mom, my dad, my sister, myself, plus 2 grandparents in a 1-bedroom apartment.
It's like Charlie Bucket.
It was literally like we might as well had the shared bed in Charlie Bucket, right?
Yeah.
And
Willy Wonka fans will know.
And if not, I judge you right now for not knowing. By the way, everyone that's in the room just nodded yes, because you don't know what Charlie Bucket is. Be gone. Good day, sir. And so what happens is we're in this, everyone in the building, because it's Florida and the condo commandos are out, they're trying to kick us out because they're like, you can't have 6 people in an apartment. It's not safe. It's not good. Trying to get us evicted, which I understand why, but it was terrifying to me as a 13-year-old kid that we're going to be evicted. And this one neighbor across the hall comes to my grandmother and says, I see what's happened to your family. I'm going to actually leave my apartment for you right now. I'm going to go wherever she went with her son. You take my apartment so your family can have some space and some kind of feel a little bit okay about the world. Nicest thing to this day anyone's probably ever done for my family. And I remember her name was Mircy, which as a kid I always heard as mercy. And make no mistake, mercy and empathy is what she showed us. And I think today, cruelty and venom and harshly judging those we disagree with has become sport in our culture. Mm-hmm. But cruelty and venom aren't signs of strength. They're signs of weakness and petty insecurity. And what takes strength is actually being kind to someone else and showing them some empathy. And I say those words, Doug, and you hope that in your speeches or when you do these things, like you think where maybe they'll clap here or maybe they'll applaud here. But I'd never given the speech before. I'd never even told the story publicly before. And 70,000 people wouldn't let me speak. If you watch the video, you see I have to start over in it because they're just applauding. And I'm like, what are you clapping for? I truly had no idea. And that was the part that went viral, is that story. Mm-hmm. And I think it was, what my wife said to me was, you tapped a vein you didn't know was there. And it was just the culture right now, we're so venomous to each other that we're starving for empathy. Whatever your politics are, we're starving for some kindness these days. And when the speech was over, I won't ruin the ending, there's a surprise at the end of the speech, but 70,000 people went crazy. Yeah. And I remember leaning forward on the stage because I thought the energy from 70,000 people going nuts almost knocked me over on my rear end. And I'm yelling at the end of the speech. It's not because I'm trying to be a good hype man. It's because I can barely hear myself. And I have access to 3 jumbotrons. And when the speech was over, everyone from Katie Couric to you name it was sharing. I don't know these people, but they were sharing it. And the most important review was my son, because when we walk off the stage and procession leaves, they're all like, well, come this way. Here's the I said, I'm not going in the procession. And I cut out of the procession and jumped into my son's arms with his buddies. And it was, needless to say, one of the greatest days of all time.
The audience should check this out, the speech. And there's also an amazing photo of your son that went around, also viral, like capturing some of the moment. Was
well, what
really
happened
great.
is God bless Go Blue Michigan. The alumni office there said, "Tell us where he is." So once I knew it was in the 14th row, I told them, and they put a camera on him. I didn't know that. and he certainly didn't know that. And they caught the moment at the end of the speech. I point to my son, and they caught the moment where I'm pointing to him, and you see him cheering. And I can tell you, as any parent knows, my kids never cheer for me, like ever. Like we are master eye roller. Like anything dad does is stupid and dumb and ridiculous. But for one 15-minute period, it was. I'll never ever not be thankful for that moment to give my son that gift and to feel all that love in real time come back. And the great Desmond Howard was there with me and surprised
Michigan
everyone.
Football,
Michigan
great.
football,
Heisman
great.
Trophy winner, I think.
Heisman
right?
Trophy winner, and he was so nice because we brought him out as a surprise guest, and no one in the audience knew, and it was great because when I graduated Michigan, Desmond was in my class.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the speaker at the graduation said, "Desmond Howard, are you here today? You won the Heisman Trophy." And he stood up, and he was like a couple rows away from me. And so when I got to the end of my speech, I said, we all have past versions of ourselves. And when I was 22 years old, I was in this stadium, and Desmond Howard won the Heisman Trophy. And, sometimes the great magic tricks are the ones that a great magician always has another trick up their sleeve. And I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, me and my friend Desmond Howard," and I brought him out now 30 years later, and the place went bananas because it was like suddenly it was like the 1980s, and it was suddenly right now, and time is slippery.
Yeah.
And to be on the recipient side of all that love for him, and then he was so kind. What I've never told is he was so kind that he texted me after the speech. I said, "Go home. I'll see you in Florida. We'll catch up later." Is he waited after the speech and texted me to meet my son and his friends, which was
awesome.
such a class act. So we got to go in the Michigan locker room and take pictures with him, and it was such a nice, amazing moment for my boy.
I love to hear that about the great sports figures who are signing the autographs and meeting the fans and just taking a little extra time. I've seen that on a few NFL games where someone actually stopped and, had a moment. Like it's 2 seconds, but it means a ton.
I mean,
to
and again,
people.
and I said to him, "Go home, go back to your family." And he didn't have to wait through 2 hours of graduation because I spoke at the beginning, and then the graduation happens, and he waited 2 hours just to be nice and be kind to my boy, and that is what a class act is all about. It's good to be a hero on the football field.
A gift to your son is a gift to the world, which needs more of that.
Yeah, we made a book out of it. We made this book, Make Magic, out of it, and I love the fact that now there's people buy that as a gift and they can kind of give the magic trick to someone else.
Well, and part of the magic is, as you say, that in-person live feedback. It's easy to be venomous on social media. You feel like you're almost extracting some toxins from yourself and just sort of releasing it out there to the world. But now, social media, unfortunately, is about 90% of human interaction these days. And it's so refreshing to get out, to give a live speech in person, to actually get that feedback from someone who's standing right in front of you. That easier to spread kindness that way.
Oh, yeah. And
actually, that was a phrase from your thing. Unleash your kindness was
that
a
was
phrase
what it
from
says
your
at the
speech.
end. At the end, it says, "If you really want to shock the world, unleash your kindness."
Yeah,
and
I
that
love that.
phrase, we now make T-shirts of it. People were like, "I want T-shirts." I'm like, "I'm not making T-shirts." And all these people kept saying, "We want T-shirts. We want mugs." So we made them. We're
You're
like,
in the
"Here you
merch
go." I
business
mean,
now.
so suddenly we're in the tequila. We're going to get our tequila brand, and but yeah, it was just this amazing thing that we. I think the reason it worked is because we had no plan to do any of that. It was never meant to be a book.
Right. It's
It was
organic,
never
and you
meant
can tell when it's organic.
People were starting just making stuff. Someone bought the URL, Unleash Your Kindness, before I could buy it because I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I just love my kids.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put that out into the world and to watch
And
a
that's where the
stadium
speech
full of
came from,
people it just came receiving right back. And like you said, it was the class of kids that got locked down in COVID. So my son never had a prom. My son never had a high school graduation. So for the kids there, they'd never had a graduation since they were in middle school. And to be able to give that gift out, so many people have come to me, even for the Viper and for other tours, it's just saying from Michigan parents who are just like, "Thank you for that day," because we thought it was going to be a mess. We thought it was going to be bad. And don't forget, this is the height of Palestinian protesters. And 8 minutes before I went on, the protesters were on the field. It was all going bad. It looked like it was overcast. And 8 minutes before I went on, they pushed the protesters to the end zone. The clouds parted. A sunbeam came out. My sister texted me from the stands and said, "Mom and Dad are looking out for you right now." And I remember just like trying to hold it together. But it was one of those, if you say, "What's a perfect day in your life?" It was one of those near perfect days.
Oh, that's amazing. Gosh. And to stand up in front of 70,000 people,
Oh,
my
it's
God.
bananas. I'll give you the. I'll send you.
It's
the
one thing to
picture
have a
when we're
helmet
done.
on and like run around with chase footballs and do it. It's another to like I've got to entertain you people with my voice.
And it's one thing to entertain. I actually didn't mind that. When they announced me as a speaker, I was like, just give me the microphone. I'll do it right now. I don't care about the size of the audience. What I was not prepared for is what 70,000 people do when they're really excited. That, like, I've been in a bookstore making people laugh and you feel that energy. But I didn't know what times 70,000 meant.
Yes, shakes
and
the
it
ground.
knocks you over.
Yeah.
I found myself leaning forward because again, like I said, I thought I was going to be knocked on my rear end because that energy is,
That's
it's a
amazing.
force. It's like
so
standing
interesting
in a
because
hurricane.
you've been on GMA and today, so you've reached millions in a single shot with your words. But it's very different to have them right in front of you, eyes on you.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can see them.
That's right. Oh, and again, as you said, you can go on a big show and be like, "Oh, I told a good joke," but you don't feel anything. It's like today I was on. Truly, I started my day on Good Morning America, and the last thing they said to me is they said, I know that was a good interview because you made all the camera guys laugh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I didn't realize that was the measure. The measure is, can you make the crew laugh who's like seen 1 billion people?
No pressure, Mike.
No
and
pressure.
Justin.
You guys better be laughing, right? Although they gave me the nod for Charlie Bucket, so I'll
That's
take
good.
that.
All right.
But I think that feeling is, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. The Unleash Your Kindness thing, it sounds simple, and it sounds almost so simple that we often overlook it. But there's this thing my wife and I have started doing more recently where in the morning we actually deliberately stop for a moment and think, what's one thing I can do today to make my wife's day better? And she does the same.
Beautiful.
And it could be like, I'm going to go make her a cup of coffee and bring it, some coffee.
I do this with my kids every night. With my youngest, I've been doing it with him for a while now, is I go into his room and I say, tell me 10 things you appreciate about yourself. 10 things. 3 things you appreciate about yourself and 3 things you're thankful for. That's it. And when you do that, you retrain your brain. Because right now what we tend to do is we naturally train our brain to be like, what am I going to bitch about today? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of the politics. I'm sick of this guy. I hate this other side. I hate this person. It's natural, right? Our Instagram feeds are filled with all the things that make us mad. Our Twitter feeds are filled with all the things that piss us off. But I think doing that is, and if you look scientifically, that's how you create more empathy, right? Because when we get overwhelmed, when the news gets bad, when we get overwhelmed and we shut down. But you can't shut down. If you shut down, we're in trouble. But here's the good news: is empathy's malleable. So if you want to have more empathy, the real secret when you look at social science, the social science of this, is you just have to want to have more empathy. So it's like when you're in college in your freshman year. Why do you make the most friends that year? Because you're open to making the most friends that year. And that's how empathy is. So if you do that every day and say, how am I going to put a little bit more good in the world? I know it sounds naive. I know it sounds like a little whatever, but it's an idea worth fighting for. Yeah.
And you can make a deliberate choice to live your life that way. It's so simple, but it sounds simple, and it is simple. If you
let me just ask you: is yours just for you and your wife,
and
or
the
do you
kids
say
too,
like
really?
the kids? And do you go to and say, "How am I going to do the world?" Or you just keep it like to the family? Like, what am I going to do?
I mean, the sort of
I'm actually just curious, looking for good stuff.
The daily, ritual of having that thing is sort of internal, and then hopefully it's sort of I'll approach the rest of the world and all the people, strangers in the street that way too. But it's like if I need to see one act that I'm going to perform this day, it's for the people in the house that I know I'm going to kind of see.
That's awesome.
And then hopefully that becomes, as you say, almost like a contagion and just the way you live your life.
And again, if you look at what I saw, this thing today, it was actually by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he said, people think if they just have all the energy in the world that they're gonna reach their goal. And he says, but that's BS. He's like, because eventually you do run out of gas. He's like, the only way you actually reach your goal and become the bodybuilder, become the thing, or keep the New Year's resolution is you have to develop the habit to do that thing. The point of the habit is even when you don't want to do it, you still do it.
Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about is you're creating a habit in your family, and that's how you get to the spot, because it becomes that habit. I want my son, the reason I do it with my youngest is I want him every day to think about what he's thankful for and what he appreciates about himself, because on some days we just don't.
That's an incredible mindset of positivity that really can make a difference. What would you say to these 20,000+ graduates, thinking more in a career perspective about the future? And I'm thinking in particular, and you're a great person to ask about this, with whether it's AI or other challenges they're going to face in this rapidly evolving job marketplace. For example, in your case, your wife is a lawyer. You were almost a lawyer. With AI, I'm reading articles about AI handling a lot of the work that first and second year lawyers used to do can be handled by AI.
Of course.
What would be a message to that 22-year-old, whatever, 20s set going forward? What's a good job?
I mean, I tell you what I tell my own kids is I would learn AI. I told my son, I'm like, go learn it. I said, whatever the newest thing is that adults don't understand because we're so stupid and set in our ways, go learn that. You'll be valuable. That's the only thing. I think, it's great advice I once saw. It said, life is a bunch of doors. And our goal is that you see an open door and you see a closed door. And you got to see the open doors and walk through the open doors. And you got to ignore the closed doors or not be stopped by the closed doors. And when you walk through that open door, you got to find another open door and walk through that. And I feel like that's what life is just trying to find those open doors. And to me, I think it's easy to say, go do what you're passionate about. Like, you could be passionate about acting. That doesn't mean you're going to make it. You could be passionate about writing. Doesn't mean you're going to make it. I think you got to find, and again, this is not me. This is smarter brains than myself. I've said you got to find what you do like to do, but also what you're really good at.
Yeah.
And I think the answer to get there is go get good at something. Like, enjoy, and again, I can try and be a professional basketball player. I'm never going to be good enough for that. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to choose wisely. What can I make myself really great at that I'm of value to X, whatever X is? Mm-hmm. And so I've told my son, I'm like, you know what I would do? And he has a good job. He loves his job. But I've said to him, I would take whatever free time I had and I'd learn AI.
He's already working. He just graduated in May?
Yeah, I know. But I'm like, that's not enough. More, son, more. Forget everything I said in that speech. Yeah. No, but I said to him, because we were talking exactly about that. I'm like, you are either going to be plowed over by this or you're going to understand this. And it's just a function of, do you want to be Blockbuster or you want to be Netflix? What do you want to be?
Right. Well, you're doing a range of things. As we said up top in the interview, you've done nonfiction, fiction, children's books. You've been on the History Channel. You've got a number of different projects going. So I'm curious how you manage that. Do you often have a number of projects going at one time?
I do. But there's always a kid's book going in a weird way, but they're shorter, right? Writing a novel is a 400-page, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, it's a 400-page endeavor, 350, 400, pick your number. And that's not something you can knock out in a weekend. Mm-hmm. You can't knock out in 5 weekends, 10 weeks. Like, that is a year-long process. For me, for a novel, it's a 2 to 3 year process. Mm-hmm. The kids' books I can do much quicker, and so I just allot those times for the kids' books, and then I build everything I want to do around everything else.
Yeah. So, if a stranger comes up to you in the street and says, "What do you do for work?" Is there a one-line answer to that?
I always say I'm a writer. That's right. I always say, and oddly, it's funny you ask that. I always say I'm a novelist, even though I've written 40 kids books, even though I've written 4 nonfiction books, 6 nonfiction books and comic books. I just always say I'm a novelist. I don't know why. I'm sure there's some part of me that's like, sounds cool, but that's always what I go for. I don't know why.
Yeah. Do you prefer it over because you've written some terrific nonfiction books. There's a ton of research for that, and it's.
It's funny. I'm on the board of the National Archives Foundation, and they have you fill out your thing of what your little placard should say on your thing. Mm-hmm. And I wrote novelist and historian. And at first I wrote novelist and nonfiction writer. And then I tried on a couple and I was like, they don't feel right. And I wrote novelist and historian, and that felt right. This thing you make up and this thing that's based in reality. And those were the 2 words I liked. Those made me feel like that's a job I want.
Do you find one to be easier than the other?
I think the novelist, in a weird way, is the hardest thing to do. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm writing Abraham Lincoln, and I have an Abraham Lincoln book, like when we did the Lincoln Conspiracy book, or we did the Nazi Conspiracy book, I see what Abraham Lincoln was doing, read enough books on it, and just follow the story.
Yeah.
But when you have a novel, it's a blank page. It's the only time you truly at a blank page. I write chapter 1, and I'm like, I don't know what I got.
Yeah.
If I don't put something down, there is nothing to follow. And that's always, I think, the harder one to do.
I have found the same because I've done a bit of both. And I realized with fiction, the thing that I struggle with most, I can write dialogue okay, and I'm a decent writer, but I struggled most with plot. Coming up with the next thing.
Plot to
me,
and
nonfiction, it's like picking money up off the street.
Yeah,
it's like, there it is.
There
Just
it is. That's what he did, and he did that, and he did that. The funny thing is, for me, the plot is what comes most naturally.
Oh.
What I have to work harder at is the character. Like it's just finding that character beat. And as I get older, I don't know if you feel this, but I just feel like I don't know if I'm more honest with my reader or more honest with myself. I think it's the latter. I'll just give you an example. You'll see what I mean. So at the end of The Viper, the last thing I did in the book is to make the opening quote of the book. It's the last thing I put in because I'm still figuring out what the book is about as I'm writing it. And it's usually when I'm done with it, it's a 2-3 year process. It reveals to me, oh, this is what I'm struggling with right now. And the quote at the beginning of the book is this quote by Dale Maleridge. It says, I don't believe in closure. I'm not sure we ever really get over anything. And I remember being like, that's what I'm struggling with, is closure about my dad. I buried my mom. I buried my father. I struggled for a long time to get over their deaths and figure them out, but something was still bothering me. And here's the story. As my dad made a lot of mistakes in his life. You heard about when he lost all his money. But when I graduated college, I was a year from graduating, and I went to register for classes, and they said, sorry, Brad, you're kicked out of school at Michigan. They're like, your bills are not paid. I'm like, what? What do you mean my bills are not paid? I had to race down to the office, immediately take out loans right there, which they gave me. I got a 1% loan. And I made everything calm down. They let me register. So smoothed it all out for my senior year, figured it out. And then when I graduated, I moved to Boston and changed my home address. Now I had a real address. And so all my mail gets forwarded to me. And in my mail were $40,000 of credit card debt that I never opened. That's how my dad was paying for my college. He was taking all those offers that say, hey, get a free credit card.
Oh, my gosh.
And he was paying he was
not at
basically
1%.
At 22%, which is a terrible idea. So he has $40,000 accruing at 22% instead of a 1% loan. So stupid. They tell me if you want to report this and get out of it, your dad's going to have to go to jail. It's a fraud. He's going to have to be arrested. You're going to have to sign the affidavit to put him away. I'm like, I'm not ratting my own father out. But I calm everyone down. We make a deal. They pay a smaller percentage. I calm it down again. And eventually, if you keep getting hit in the back of the head, you start looking over your shoulder. And I was really pissed at all those things my dad would screw up. I was like, it was going fine, and then you made a dumb decision. I could have just had a small loan. Instead, you gave us this $40,000 of debt. And that was accruing and doubling quickly. And here's what I missed in that story that I've told for many years now. And I said this part of the story at my dad's funeral, is when my dad was little.
When did he pass away?
He passed away 10 years ago. Yeah. And at my dad's funeral, I told the story. My dad used to get beat up by his own dad. My grandfather was a boxer. He used to hit my father. I know my father used to jump in front of his younger brother to take the hits for him. I know he used to jump in front of my grandmother to take the hits so she wouldn't get hit. And the part I was missing of the story is I didn't realize that my dad, in his dumb actions, was trying to take the hits for me so that I could become the first in my immediate family to go to a 4-year college. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't see that part of the story because I was so mad and pissed at all the headache he caused me. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find it. You just didn't have the
sophistication to do it in a better way.
I couldn't find it. Yeah. And when I was working on this book and in the months that followed it, I was like, I got it. I see that part of the story. And I think for me, that's a very long-winded way around.
How did this book help you arrive at
that? Because I figured out in a sense that what the book was about, I'll say it this way. So Zig is a character in the book. The two main characters are Zig and Nola. And if you never read them before, you can pick up The Viper and read them. It doesn't matter. Zig is a character that believes you put good into the world, then the world becomes a better place. Again, completely beautiful idea, naive idea worth fighting for. Nola is the opposite. She's like my girl with the dragon tattoo, right? And she's like, if you want the world to make sense, grab it by the throat and force it to make sense. This is BS. Like, you got to, especially when you see injustice, go fight harder than you ever fought before. And that's also an idea worth fighting for. And I knew that part of me was Zig. I do believe you make the world a better place by being a good person. I also believe, like Nola, I've got a lot of fight in me. And when you see injustice, you got to use your voice. I'm like Nola too. And I think this is my third book that I've been writing about them, that I was always like, which of me is right? What's the real me? That's what I was chasing. Eventually I'm going to figure out what the real me is. And what The Viper as a book helped me figure out is I'm both of them. Mm-hmm. We are all both of them. We all are filled with love, and we are all filled with fight. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to choose. What you have to do is accept yourself.
They both characters, Zig and Nola Brown, have endured terrible traumas. Zig lost a child. Nola had a very hard scrabble, in and out of foster home childhood, and endured abuse. And you're right, they do have a very different sort of worldview of.
But what they're struggling with is the hole that's within them will never be filled. Zig will never, ever get his daughter back. Nola will never have a father. They will each not have
and
what
they each play like a quasi role of that.
And they play the role,
other.
but Nola will never like Zig and will never come play reindeer games with him.
In fact, she resents whenever he looks at her like a daughter.
Hates
in a way.
it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not your dead daughter. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I think it was. I think as I was writing this book, I saw that it was just me trying to figure out, and find some self-acceptance that it's okay to have both sides. There's my favorite part of the whole book. There's this word called pentimento at the end of the book. It doesn't ruin the ending, but pentimento is a term about paint in artwork, and it's when the paint gets so dry and so brittle that it becomes transparent. That you can actually see the lines and the pencils underneath the paint that the artist puts in. You can see the artist's first draft on the canvas, and it's filled. You'll see like a tree that's swaying one way is now swaying the other. You can see those first choices, those mistakes, those regrets, all those early parts of any first draft. And there's a line at the end of the book that I couldn't figure out. And I was walking with my daughter. I was trying to explain it to her. And I said, and I was talking right to her. And I said, those regrets we have in our lives, we all have early drafts of ourselves. We all have early versions of ourselves. And those regrets and those first drafts and all those mistakes we make, they're always there, but you can't make a masterpiece without them. And I was like, oh, that's it. I realized when I was finally talking to my daughter that it came out of me, and I put it in the book, and I was like, that's what we're talking about here, is just loving yourself for who you are.
It's a super well done part of the book, because it reminds me of, you look at a masterpiece by Leonardo da Vinci, and underneath the paint there are these sketch lines, I don't know, it's pencil or whatever, charcoal he used or something, but beneath the paint there is that sort of underlying, I don't know, framework outline for the painting.
The rough draft.
That you can see in the
right, but that's where it comes from. And I think so often in life, I know it's a novel, and I know it's a thriller, and I know it's mixed-term pages, but to me what I love is that I think the best books in the world don't tell you about the characters. They don't tell you about the plot. What they do is they tell you about yourself. And what you're seeing in there is, I'm not trying to tell you about anything about yourself, but you're going to see what I'm telling myself. And I know one thing, Doug, I'm not that special. And if I'm struggling with this, there are other people struggling with it and trying to figure it out for themselves. And that's to me, at the core of the Viper, is me just trying to dig at something that I don't even know what I'm digging at, but that bone is there and I'm going to find it.
No, there's a lot of wisdom in the book. And, driven by, I guess I would say character first maybe, but there's some, let's stay on the Viper for a bit, because there are also some very cool things in the backdrop of the story. One is Dover Air Force Base. So Zig works at the mortuary at Dover. You seem to have some special access for insider information about how it all works there. Can you share about that?
Yeah, so I didn't know what Dover was. Truthfully, I do a lot of work with the USO. And the USO, back when the war was winding down, they were bringing half a dozen thriller writers every year to go entertain our troops. And I was, I think, in the third group that they picked. And they took me to Kuwait and to Oman and Qatar. And I've been to Cuba and addressed the Pacific Fleet. It's been incredible, to go around and entertain the troops. And it was there I heard about Dover. And Dover...
This is Dover, Delaware for the
Delaware,
audience.
And for those who don't know, you've seen it. It's where those flag-covered coffins, when someone dies and is killed in action, those flag-covered coffins come off the plane and everyone salutes. But it's not just where our military victims in the military go. It's where, when the space shuttle exploded, all the astronauts' bodies went to Dover. When 9/11 happened, all the Pentagon victims, their bodies went to Dover. And in fact... right now our CIA agents, whether they're in Venezuela or anywhere else, if something goes sideways, their bodies go to Dover too, which means Dover's a place that's filled with secrets. And I love secrets. And so I was just like, this place is amazing. I want to go see it. Like America's most secretive funeral home is in Delaware, of all places. And I was like, let me see if I can get in there. And I went there, and the morticians that work there will spend 12 hours rewiring someone's jaw and smoothing it over with clay, because a family member says, I want to see my son one last time in their coffin. And they'll rebuild someone's hand because mom says, I want to hold my son's hand one last time. And I was so moved by the kindness and that empathy that they're showing these families. You know, there's a mortician I met there who spent 12 hours doing that and won't put in an hour of overtime. Just feels like it's a solemn duty to show the dignity and respect to these fallen soldiers who have given their lives for this country. And I was moved by that. I'm like, oh my gosh, that commitment to it. Like, we all say that we want that, but we don't live it. These are the people that live it.
Yeah.
And that was where I started, is digging into Dover, and it became this place that
When you went, did you know that we were thinking about a book or a character?
I
or you
was.
just
No,
wanted
by
to
the
see
time
it
I got there,
independently?
by the time I got there, I was like, I don't know if there's a book there, but let me see what it is.
Yeah.
And I remember going there, and it was right in the beginning. One of the first morticians I met, I said, I'm always looking for, like, is there a way to create like a secret message on a body, or can you do something where like someone had something like a tattoo on their body that you found when you were, doing the embalming? And they said to me, if you are on a plane and your plane starts hitting turbulence and is going to go down, that you can actually take out a sheet of paper, write a quick note, eat the note, and the liquids in your stomach will actually, depending on the height you fall from, protect that note because of all the liquids in your body upon the crash. I'm like, that's a really cool idea. And they said to me, that's not an idea. It really happened. And I was like, oh, that's so
that's in the one before this.
The Escape Artist. It's in The Escape Artist. The opening scene is literally, he opens up the body and sees someone, and there's a note inside that says, Nola, you were right, keep running. Yeah. And he realizes that she's the Escape Artist. She's not dead. She's actually alive and on the run. And I didn't make it up. Yeah. That was real. It happened. And I just was lucky enough to be there to hear the story.
So your book combines, larger wisdoms, but also these crazy kernels of greatness, of like little real stories like that too.
Well, even the one awesome. So let's talk about the opening of The Viper. The Viper starts with a man walks into a funeral home, and he's carrying his favorite blue suit, and he's got a terminal disease, and this is the suit he wants to be buried in. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing, if you go to your local bank and you open up a safety deposit box, paperwork gets filed. Government can eventually track it. Same thing, you go to the P.O. box, you open a P.O. box at the UPS store, they can find that too. However, if you secretly sew something into the lining of your suit, and then you hand that suit to your local mortician, you have the ultimate secret hiding spot, untraceable. And from there, the man goes back to his hotel room, leaves the suit with the mortician. When he gets into the hotel room, there's someone waiting with a gun who says, where is it? He says, I don't know what you're talking about. And he kills our man dead, and you will not believe what is hidden in that suit or who's about to find it. And that's chapter 1 of The Viper. But it came about because I was walking around with a mortician in a funeral home, and he passed by this door that had a giant padlock on it. And I was like, what's in there? I see the padlock. What's in there? And he opened it up, and there were all these kind of like grandparents' clothing, like a striped suit. Someone had a Jets jersey. Someone had a sequin gown. They had a cowboy hat that someone was like, when I die, my ex-wife hates this cowboy hat. Make sure I'm buried in it so she has to see it in my coffin. Like, people are mean, to their dying breath, and funny and odd and crazy. And I was just like, this is the best hiding spot I've ever seen, given to me by one of the
It's a great opening of the book. By the way, can any civilian go tour any aspect of Dover? Can you see even a little bit of it?
I don't think you could see it. I mean, I don't know if there is a museum on there that's an Air Force museum, but it has nothing to do with the mortuary. The mortuary is a solemn. You're not getting in the mortuary. I mean, and you don't. Let's put it this way: you don't want to go to the mortuary. If you're going there, you're having a bad day.
Yeah.
But it was so impressive to me what people are doing there. And it lets me honor their work in the most fun way.
It is a great way to honor. You speak with reverence, and Zig is a wonderful character that it's sort of a good ambassador for the mortuary in that way. One other piece of the backdrop I wanted to get to without giving anything away, if we can weave this in. You have some good intelligence about witness protection.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
And how Google Earth, I guess, has sort of forced it to
ruined it
evolve
all.
a bit.
Of course. I mean, so what happens is, I've done the secret tunnels below the White House. I've done the labyrinth below the Capitol. I've even done the secret tunnels below Disney World, which was really hard to get into. Mickey and Donald and Goofy take theirs very seriously. They will make you disappear in the middle of the night. You cross them.
There's a whole city under there, right? With garbage trucks and stop signs.
It's great. And I've been down there. I've spent time down there. I use that in a book. But I was like, I want to do witness protection. And that's the most secretive of the secret. And we all think of witness protection as like Tony Soprano, right? You think of like some guy at the end of Goodfellas, like you're going to go get a nose job and live a new life. And we think of mobsters. And that's what witness protection was started for, is mobsters that are going to be taken out by people testifying against them. And that's exactly who was in witness protection. It worked. And then guess what happened? It worked so well, the mob started to disappear and dwindle. Crime doesn't go away. Other things take its place. So guess what happened? Gangs started becoming bigger. So the big group in witness protection became gang members. And then 9/11 hit. And guess what we started chasing as criminals? Terrorists. So terrorists became part of witness protection. Right now, you want to know one of the biggest groups in witness protection? Accountants. Because we live in a world of data. Of course, that's who's in there. And I won't ruin all the fun of it, but that idea of what's in the Viper is one of those ones that like I ran by my guy and was like, oh, this is something we were thinking about. This is and I love the fact that you won't look at witness protection the same way again when you read the book.
So good. I'll hold it up here one more time for the audience. The Viper by Brad Meltzer. By the way, you're already in peak form of like late book tour. I'm always an idiot in the first few days of book tour until I get my shtick down. You're like,
I got no shtick. You're like my third interview. I literally had Good Morning America this morning. I did one other, and then I got you.
Yeah. Well, it's an awesome book. So what is next for you after book tour? You must have a few projects going on. Another children's book.
Yeah. So next kids book is I wanted to do a book about empathy. We had, and it was
an
important.
extension of the Michigan.
It was. It wasn't. We had planned it around the same time, but we're doing I Am Princess Diana in the kids book series. So we've done I'm Amelia Earhart, I'm Abraham Lincoln.
How many total now there?
We're I think Princess Diana is number 38.
38.
So
wow.
we have Teddy Roosevelt, I'm Teddy Roosevelt coming after that, and then we'll announce number 40, which is the big one, because people voted on it. We had people vote for who they wanted, and I thought for sure like Taylor Swift was going to win or LeBron James, and they did not. And you'll see who 40 is. So that's coming too.
When can you announce 40?
Probably in the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to finally have the cover done.
All right.
And then
same publisher for all these things? Do you do everything in one house?
No, they're all different publishers.
Okay.
Yeah, when I wanted to do kids books, my thriller publisher rejected the books, and so I went to Penguin Random House, and then they were like, "Oh man, maybe." Yeah. And I was just like, "I'm sorry, you said no." And I went to them and I said, "Don't buy the book. I know you service a lot of like your thriller writers. Don't buy it unless you like it. So only if you like it." They were like, "Oh, thanks for that. We don't like it." And I'm like, "What do you mean you don't like it? It's so good." You know. And,
the smart money is on Brad Meltzer.
Well,
let's go.
It wasn't clearly not, and even the nonfiction books they rejected that too, and I took them to a third place. So I'm published at 3 different places because
all
they
big
were all
5.
rejected. Yeah, yeah. So Simon & Schuster does our nonfiction. HarperCollins and Morrow does the thrillers, and Penguin Random House does the kids' books. And my life should be easy by bringing them all to one place, but I like the fact that they're each in a spot with someone who really believes in them.
Same agent for all.
Well, the kids' books has a different agent,
okay,
just because kids are a totally different animal.
Yeah.
And then I have a new comic book project, one for Marvel that's coming up, one for DC that's coming up, and then one for Ghost Machine, which is our comic book company that we started, and it's called First Ghost, and it's about the ghosts that exist in the White House, and it's going to be a graphic novel that'll come out at the end of the year.
Very cool.
Which is a fun.
Do you do the illustrations?
No, okay. Not unless you like stick figures. No, Gene Ha and Jeff John's the other writer, and Gene Ha and I are doing it together, and it's called First Ghost, and I can't wait. We actually wrote it in the pandemic. That's how long it takes to find the right artist and get it drawn so beautifully. And he's doing like perfect recreations of the White House for the graphic novel. Wow. So that'll come out hopefully around summertime.
Very cool. Any book to film stuff for you coming out of any of these 3?
No. We try. We've not had success in that as much as
options here and there, but
we option
goes.
all the time.
Yeah.
But it just how it goes. It's like you got to find the perfect team. But I've sold a bunch of books outright, and I said I just don't have any desire to do that again. I'd rather wait for the right team. And
if you did get book to film, would you do some of the writing there too, or hand that off?
They've asked me to do that. I've always said no because I always said I don't want to be fired from my own book. I feel like that would piss me off more than the joy that would bring
funny.
making
I haven't
something.
heard it put quite that way before. That's funny.
But maybe I would. I think it's in the times that they've asked me, I've always been like, I'm too busy doing this. But maybe I would. I'd love, make no mistake, I'd love to try and conquer that world and figure it out. But so far, I'm happy talking to my
You're
imaginary
pretty
friends.
busy on
it's okay.
the other stuff. Well, I will keep an eye out for number 40 on the children's series. I know that you've got Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What was number 1?
Amelia Earhart.
Amelia Earhart.
Amelia Earhart and
right.
Abraham Lincoln were 1. We've done everyone from...
And what year was number 1?
It was 11 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I went to them, I said, I want to do, I'm Amelia Earhart and I'm Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's who I want to do. And they said, oh, cute, you want to do 2 books? And I said, no, I want to do 100 books. And they didn't laugh. They were like, okay. I'm like, I want to build a library of real heroes for people to teach their kids how to be good people in the world.
I love that you're taking feedback too. It's almost sort of like
well, at the beginning, it's easy, right?
response
Amelia,
on
if
who's
I said to you, who are the heroes that you would pick for America, you'd pick the same people, right? You would pick Amelia Earhart, you pick Rosa Parks, you pick Dr. King. It's obvious who the first ones are. But then, like you mentioned Ruth Bader Ginsburg, but you'll see there's no politics in the book, right? We put Sandra Day O'Connor in that book, who I adore and think is amazing. But we had all these kids writing us and saying, where's the Jewish hero? We want a Jewish hero. We had people saying, where's a Hispanic hero? Where's an Asian hero? Like people started saying, how come you did a Native American, you did this, where's the one that looks like me? And I know that that easily lapses into like, are you trying to fit everything? But like, no, there are kids out there who I know that I Am Pei is not going to be our number 1 selling book, but to one kid out there, that's the most important book we're going to do.
Well, and if you say you're going to do a library, you need
to have the representation of hitting everybody. And so, I love the fact that I go and talk about our kids' books on Fox, and then I go to NPR.
Yeah.
I can go to my buddy Glenn Beck, and then I can go to CNN. And there are things we still agree on in the world in terms of being a good person. And I love the fact that people use our books to build libraries of real heroes for their kids and their grandkids and nieces.
What percentage would you say, I don't know if you would know this offhand, but if you had broader categories, sports, science, political, do you know how that breaks down at all?
I have never looked at it. We kind of just
have you done some sports or music?
Yeah, we did Muhammad Ali. So sports, we did Jesse Owens, Muhammad Ali. We did Billie Jean King was our we wanted a female athlete. Entertainers, we've done everyone from the Beatles to Dolly Parton to and then we've done like Frida Kahlo because we did artists and Jim Henson and Mr. Rogers. And the truth is we just pick who we like. Now, the last 10 or 12, even more, I've looked at what kids need. We're done with okay, what race are you from, what this are you from? And I was like, I need a book on empathy. I need a book on mental health. We did Simone Biles for that, right? You like her or don't like her, but her mental health struggle is real, and kids are struggling with mental health right now. I was like, who's the best person for mental health? It was her. And I've looked at Teddy Roosevelt. I wanted to say of what it means to actually have responsibility for other people. I think that's one thing we've lost right now, is we've lost, this idea that power is somehow, look at what I've got. As opposed to Teddy Roosevelt's dad used to teach him, it's about look at what you can use that power for to do for others.
What works? I mean, he's the national parks guy.
National parks, yeah. I mean, that's the big one. The big one was national parks. He obviously everything from shutting down housing that was overcrowded in New York, making sure child labor weren't being exploited. His father used to say, there were orphans that were living on the streets, and it was like we need to help them take care of themselves. They can't do it. They don't have the resources we have. Having resources means you have a responsibility to other people, and that's a big idea and a hard one to teach kids. I was like, who's going to teach us that? Teddy Roosevelt. And then, of course, starts the National Park Service, wildlife sanctuaries, uses all of his presidential powers to instead create these incredible parks that are all over the country. One of the great creations of modern time, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I love it. It's a great series. I hope there's more than 100. You got to keep it rolling.
I appreciate that. I don't know. It's taken me to get to 40. It'll take me 12 years to get to 40. Yeah. So I'm going to be old, I think, if I get there. That'll be good.
Well, you got to tap into your son for some help to keep it rolling. Make it a family affair.
That's right. Yeah. Put him to work. That's what we have. Cheap labor. I like the way you're thinking, Doug.
Well, you are a busy man. I appreciate you being here. And we're going to get on to the lightning round with Brad Meltzer.
I'm ready.
The book or books you're reading now?
So I'm reading T. Kara Madden's. It's called the Tribe of Fatherless Girls, which is a nonfiction book that I love, and I also just finished Dungeon Crawler Carl. So I always read like a nonfiction and a fiction almost at the same time. So those are the two.
Yeah. When you're writing too, or you always?
I don't read while I write. I
Okay.
can't read while I write. So that's the thing is those books I just mentioned to you have actually been finished for a while. And then I try and when I'm in break between a book, I consume like crazy.
Oh, that's great. Favorite podcast? Present company.
Come on, man. The one I'm listening to, truthfully, I only listen to really one. I've been listening to Amy Poehler because it just totally takes me out and no
What does she
politics,
do?
no
I haven't
stress.
listened. Is it comedy and conversations?
You know what?
or-
It's the truth is what I like about what she does is she just brings in her friends and shoots the crap with them, and I'm like, it's not even what they say. You know how when you're with your friends, you're that best version of yourself. You're just like. We're one way with our friends, we're another way with our parents. We're chameleons all the time. And she just brings on these people that she clearly has these 20-year-old, 30-year-old friendships with. And it's called Good Hang. And you just feel like you're hanging with people that enjoy each other.
That's nice.
I
Just
don't even know some of the
relaxing,
people that she's brought on. And I'm like, they're funny. And we could use some funny right now.
Oh, that's great. I'll try that out. Best TV or movie villain?
I still think Darth Vader is the best villain. I really do. I think he's got the best backstory. It's the only... I think it's going to be hard to top.
Yeah, that's the twist of all twists there. What are the favorite few recent TV shows that you would recommend to the audience?
So we loved Somebody Somewhere was this show I'd never heard of. It's in season 3. It's completely about the middle of America, just people who are in the middle of Kansas. I did not know anything about it. It knocked me out of my socks.
Where did you stream this from?
Yeah, streamed on maybe on HBO, maybe Hulu. I forget, one of the Somebody Somewhere.
All right, Somebody Somewhere. What was more daunting for you, drafting the speech that you gave at Michigan to 70,000 or drafting a novel?
Gosh. The funny thing is, the speech I wrote it took me a few hours to write, nothing. But I thought about it for 6 months. Because the speech in Michigan is usually given by, especially in election year, a U.S. president. That's just how it goes. Michigan's a bellwether state.
Yeah.
It's a big place. You get 70,000 people. It's usually the president. I think I got lucky that they didn't want any politics. They were like, just find someone who's like a nice person. And like, I honestly think I was just the dummy in the right place at the right time. And they asked me.
Hardly.
And so I kept saying, they asked me 6 months in advance, but they said, you can't say anything until we announce you, which is only 2 months in advance. So for 4.5 months, I couldn't tell anybody that I was the speaker. And I was fully convinced that the president was going to come in and replace me. So I just sat. I didn't want to write it. I felt like I was jinxing it. So I just thought about the speech for 6 months. And they announced me. And the day they announced me, the next day I just went down and typed it out in a second. And the speech was done. So, but daunting, that was probably the more daunting one. Just because it wasn't the 70,000 people. I didn't care. It was my son. It was my daughter. It was my other son. They were going to be listening. And one time they were going to actually be listening.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What an experience.
And
It's
don't
amazing.
screw it up. And if I screw it up, by the way, I'm the guy who ruined his graduation. Right? If I'm a dud and I give some rambly speech about go for your dreams and then I'm that doofus. And I did not want to be that doofus.
Well, I mean, boy, did you deliver. I mean, it's still out there breathing.
It's crazy
people are
to me.
viewing it all the time.
Crazy.
Last question for the awesome Brad Meltzer. One piece of advice for the audience.
I do think, I said it once, I may have even said it twice, but it's been on my brain. Love yourself and accept yourself for who you are. And I know that sounds trite, and I know that sounds almost so easy, but we don't. Mm-hmm. What we do is we pick ourselves apart, we find our flaws, and we look backwards and wish we have regrets of things we should have done, and we look forward and say, like, this is what I want. And I think if you look back, you're going to have regret. If you look forward, you're going to have anxiety if it's going to happen. I think you just got to accept where you are right now, just at this moment. And tomorrow will be, again, a new moment. And I think if you allow yourself a little bit of grace, you'll have a little bit of a better day.
Oh, I love it. Brad, thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug.
Great to be with you again.
Always.